Hi, Kathy here from Kathy's Cute Creations. Today I am going to be doing my mystery squares. And first I was going to do a table runner, and now I've decided to make it into a wall hanging. But you can do either one. And I'll show you the layout before we put them together, and you can decide. Let me show you the fabric that I'm going to use. All the squares, there's going to be 4 total, and they are 12.5 inches. Here's the stack that I'm going to be using from. It's called Giving Thanks. I also said that there was the panel. Before I show you the panel, I went ahead and I haven't decided yet, but I grabbed these 2 colors that go with my stash. Okay? I liked these 2. These are just fabric I got laying around. I'll show you the panel here. I'll just slowly lift it up. Vanna's downstairs, so I don't have any help to show you. First thing I decided, I wanted to make 4 squares, and every one of these is easy. This is beginner friendly. Now I have something called EQ8. It's a program on my computer. So I sat down and I made 3 of these, and I'm going to show you just the first one. So the first thing I did was I created 3 blocks because I was going to go with a table runner. And after I got to looking at it, I decided I didn't want to do table runner. I wanted to do either a wall hanging or a table topper. So that's where I'm going to do 4 so it can be square. Now this isn't exact because I was practicing. This is what the first one's going to be. Let's see if we get a little closer. And then I'm going to show you the colors that I made my practice in. Here's my practice. Yellow and red, which represents the fall. Well, that's the one we're going to be making first. Now, my main background fabric is going to be white. You can make yours any color you want, whatever you're wanting to use. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to square it up at the very beginning here. And I've pretty well got mine squared up, but just in case you don't know how I do it, I'm lining up the bottom of my ruler here, right along a line, and then I'm going to take off this little bit here. I use a weight to hold that down so that it doesn't move, and then I have my hand partially on the ruler as well as off. Now the way that I've written my directions is I wrote them based on row 1, row 2, and row 3. Row 1, we're going to have the background, and we're going to cut a 5.5 inch square. This is going to be my 5.5 inch of a background. I'm also going to use it to cut down and make my 4.5 inch background. So first we're going to square this up just like we did the other. This is going to be my 5.5 inch. So I'm making one background, which is white, and one color. And I did iron all my pieces. So there's my background. Here's the colors that I've picked out. I picked out this and this orange here. So I'm going to cut this one first. You want to make sure that your ruler goes off of both edges of your fabric. Let's get this up a little bit so you can see it. We're going to square it just like I did the other piece. And I know it's not going to be perfect, but usually what I do for a piece like this is I try to match up and go with a leaf here. Just try to straighten it out, because we're going to straighten it out the next time we cut it. So here we go. We'll get this done. Now we're going to do this one in 5.5. And I like to slide my ruler, kind of smooths out the fabric. Although this fabric is already ironed, this is going to be 5.5. And I'm going to look for that little piece on the edge there. Just push down on my ruler. I'm going to square this end over here. I already know that this is straight and that is straight. So I go to the edge. If this is your selvage, which is the pieces that have the little holes, and all I do is line up one of these little straight lines with the fabric. And now I go 5.5. Pay attention to your numbers on your ruler. And the reason I use this ruler is that the numbers are so big, and you can turn it different ways to get different effects on this ruler. Okay. And I only need one of them. So this is what you have so far. You have one 5.5 inch color, one 5.5 inch background, one 4.5 inch. That's going to make row 1. I'm going to go ahead and cut out the rest. I'm going to put them in a little stack here and tell you the sizes so that you can cut the whole thing out for your square. This is what we're going to cut out. 2 5.5 inch of one color, one 4.5 inch. 2 5.5 inch of one color, one 4.5 inch. These are the half square triangles and the solid colors to make the leaf. 2 5.5 inch squares for the half square triangles, and 2 4.5 inch squares, one for each corner. 2.5 by 8 inch brown for the stem. The first thing I did was I paired up what I'm making into half square triangles. I am using a friction, see if you can see it here. That's a friction pen. This is one of those ones that disappears when you iron it. I'm using a blue one. I'm taking the fabric on the wrong side, and I'm going to do it to 3 pieces. You always want to make sure that your ruler comes off of your fabric, and I take it to the tip and down here to the tip, and then I do hash marks because this is going to be the cutting line when you're finished. Then I take my ruler. This has a 1/4 inch on my ruler already. They have it marked. I put it on the left-hand side of my dash lines so that they're not covered by the black dashes, and I can actually see them. And then I draw a straight line. Now I don't need to make it dark or anything, just go along there. Then I'm going to flip this over, and I'm going to repeat the same process. I'm going to put the lines on the ruler to the left of the dash line, and then mark a solid line. I'm going to do that on all 3. So I'm going to do it on this yellow piece and this flowered, or this leaf colored fabric. You can see that I have all of these marked. Now what you're going to do, because these are all marked on the wrong side, you're going to take your right side to the right side of your background fabric. You're going to line it up. Now, I have made sure that this size of fabric here is big enough that it's got a little wiggle room, because you're new at making half square triangles, and if this is your first one, don't worry about it, because I made sure there's plenty of fabric. I put 2 pins, and that's strictly to hold these 2 pieces together. So go ahead and pin them all. Now I'm using a 2.5 inch stitch. I have not put on a new needle. I don't need one. I'm just using a cream color thread on the top and white in my bobbin. And just taking my time. And I am sewing on the straight line, not the dash line. And we're going to sew on each line. Just pull your pins out before you meet them, so you don't accidentally go over them, because it can break your needle, and it can also break your pen. It can damage your electronic sewing machine if you have an electronic sewing machine. It can't take that kind of beating. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to chain stitch this. And chain stitch is when you do one right after the other. See if I can get my fabric up there. There we go. And if you got a needle left on your sewing machine, you might want to go ahead and put it in, learn how to use it. Most of the newer ones come with them. Even the brother sewing machines that you can buy at Walmart come with them now. You want to clip them all apart. We're going to turn around and do the other side. Now we're going to cut right through the dash lines. You can use your scissors or your rotary cutter. Just put your ruler on this tip and that tip. It'll be the same thing. There we go. Now what you do is you take your iron and I lay it on and I relax it. This is relaxing your seam. And as you can tell, the lines are going away as you iron. And then I lift up and slowly, and I'm not pressing on the iron now, I'm just putting it on there real lightly. Now I've let go and put the weight on it. There's no water in this iron. No steam. If I want to use steam, I will actually take my sprayer and I'll spray it to put the steam on. I have not starched this or anything. If you're going to do any kind of starching, you want to do it before you start sewing it and before you cut out the fabric. And sometimes I just go right on top of the fabric that was there. That's like double ironing it. There we go. Now I'm going to show you how to make half square triangles out of these. I'm using a rotating mat. This is one of the best purchases I ever made, because you do not need to pick up your fabric. You can actually spin this. Now we're going to take these 5.5-inch squares and we're going to decrease them to 4.5. And this is the way you do it. I have a 5.5-inch square ruler. You're going to put the line right down the middle of that ruler on the 2 pieces of fabric. And I go as close as I can for my first cut now. I line it up and I go as close to the point that I'm going to cut off fabric up at the top and on the right hand side. And you can see this is about 5 inches. A little bit more there and here. So I've got it right up the middle. And I put pressure on it. And I go that direction. And I'm going to turn it. And go this direction. Now that's half of it right there. You're going to pick up the ruler. You're going to take this corner. I go back up at this right hand side. I take it just like I did before. The one that goes up here at the right hand corner at the top. And what you're looking at down here is the 4.5 mark. Now on this ruler here, this little thing right here, this little black right there, that represents, let's see if you can, I think you're better looking at that. So my 4.5 is down here. This is my 4.5 right here. That's what I put on this left-hand corner. So first I line it up across all the way diagonally. Then I take my 4.5 and I come down to that corner and I make sure that my line, now when I say my line, I mean these little black and white dashes are actually on the fabric when I cut it. and I make sure that it's lined up right across that diagonal, and then I cut it. And you have a better grip on your ruler if your hand is partially on the ruler and partially here off of the side, because it is like having a grip, and then the ruler won't slip. And then when you get finished, you have a 4.5 inch half square triangle, just like that. I'll repeat the process again for you. Now, we only need one of those. That's the one with the 2 different colors. So I set this one aside because I'll use it in some other project. But I need 2 with the white background, because white is my background again. And I need 2 with the leaves and the background. So these 4 get done. So you end up with 5 half square triangles. So I'll do it again. And like I said, I start with my, oh, let me do it without this ruler for you. For those that don't have this kind of rotating ruler, because I know when you first start out, you don't have it. You always wonder what you need to invest in, what's the best thing. And believe me, they're expensive, so you have to save your money to get that. I feel like I've saved my money for everything to get it, especially if it's expensive. All right, so you line up your fabric, so you're going right down the middle again, and you're coming up to the edge, as close to the edge as you can get, because you want to take off the least amount first. So you go like this, and then you're going to have to put your arm in front to go across the top, which means you're going to have to push against your ruler. Okay? Then you're going to need to pick it up, and you're going to need to turn it, because you're trying to put this little ear over here on the right-hand side. And then you're going to put your ruler back down here, and now you're going down to the 4.5. Here's my 4.5 way over here. So go down to 4.5. And I'm going on this side and this side for the 4.5. It's straight down that line. And if you can't go across the top, stop right there. Take it and turn it. And to put your diagonal this direction, just like you had it. I mean, if it takes you a couple of tries to get it and you've got to do it this way, then that's fine. You got to do it this way. You don't have a choice. Just take your time. And like I said, you want to keep your hand on the ruler and off the ruler to hold the ruler in place. Okay? And then just do it like that. And there you go. 4.5. Just like that. Alrighty, so now all of our blocks, if you notice, they equal 4.5 inches. Because remember, now we cut these out at 4.5. Lay it over the top. Voila. Yes. Okay. Now, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to build the block that has the stem on it. And this is what you're going to do. Take your brown fabric. You're going to fold it halfway in. And then I'm going to press it down with my hands. I'm going to bring the other half in, press it down, and now I'm going to take it over to the ironing board and press it. So I'm right-handed, so I'm going to do it this way. If you're left-handed and you feel like you have to go like this, that's fine. Whatever's comfortable for you. The point is, we're doing it diagonally. Take the part that's got the flap, lay it with the flap up, wrong side to you, correct side down. You're going to go in the middle of that brown right there. You see how I went into the middle of it? You're going to pin it. You're going to pin it again down here at the bottom. You're going to get it as straight as you can on your fabric. Smooth it down, straighten it out. Just like that. You're going to flip it over. You're going to take 2 more pins, and now you're going to pin it on this side, because this is the side you're going to sew on. We'll put it up here, pull the pin out, smooth it out with your hand, go down about midway, take a pin, down here at the bottom, pin it right there, and take this one out, and now you got 3 pins in it. And now we're going to sew a seam down the right side, and we're going to flip it over, and we're going to sew a seam down the other side. And that's going to hold this on. So that's what we're going to do first. I'm going to try not to wiggle too much. But can you see this little mark on my foot? And you see this mark. This is where the needle goes down, right here in front of this. So I'm staying between the two of them on this fabric. So that's how I'm going to sew it. So I'm the distance of halfway between this point and this point right here. And I'm just going to slowly go down there, and it's going to end up being like right here. Just so I can stay close. Because if I get too close, like right here, I'm afraid that I'll come off my fabric. So let me go ahead and do that. And here you can see, here's where I started over here. And see where it went? Right on the edge there. You can barely see it. I didn't realize that brown would blend in so well. But this way, it stays on the fabric, see? It's not going to come off. Now I'm going to show you how we're going to cut to make this squared up. Take it and turn it upside down. Do not do it right side up. We're going to take our ruler, we're going to lay it down, and I'm coming right off the edge of that. See how you can see a little bit of brown right there on my ruler? See it peeking out? That's what you want to do. And then you want to cut it off, just like that. You're going to turn it. You're going to look at it. You're going to do the same exact thing. You're going to have a little bit of that brown coming off of that white. And you're going to turn it around. And you're going to repeat the process. And the reason for this, and you probably know this if you've been sewing a little bit, if you put that right, see how there's brown sticking out? If you had cut it right to the edge, that could get hung up on your sewing machine and it'll mess up this whole corner, and you don't want the corner messed up because we're going to be burying that when we make our block. All right, so that piece is done. So now every square is prepared for us to put this together. So now all we have to do is lay it out. This is what our block is going to look like. I flipped it, so now I've got the leaves part down here at the left and the yellow here at the top. And then we're going to sew it row by row. So I'm going to go ahead and leave it like that. So I'm going to sew all three of these first, then these three, and then these three. So let's pin them first. Pin the first two of each one. When it came to this one, I put them together. I turned it upside down so that you can see the brown is down here. So I lined up the top, and we'll go down to the brown because this is going to have the bulk on it. And then we'll flip it once it's finished being sewn. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to chain stitch them. And all of these are going to be 1/4 inch. And I just found another little tip here I'm going to give you real quick. If you don't want to put your pin right up here to the tip top, take a pin and put it on the top of the fabric here. And it will actually line up your fabric so that you don't have to put the pin way up here at the top, because this is making it straight right there. Take them apart. We are not going to iron them yet because we're going to be attaching our other pieces. And we're going to chain stitch them, put them in order. And then I'm going to go ahead and pin the other two. You can do that also. Now we're going to clip it apart. We're going to take it over here and we're going to iron it. And I'm going to show you how we iron it so that our corners all nestle. So we have it laid out this way. So what you're going to do is I take the second and the third one, I move aside. Pull the front, this one down here. All right, so you're going to take it and you're going to slowly hold it open as you go across it. And then it goes down into place. And you go back over it. You're going to flip it over. And then you're going to press on the seam because it's already laying down. Just like that. Now, they all went to the left. Whoops, this one's having a little problem there. So what I do, put a little water on it. You can put a clapper on it if you've got one of them. Okay, flip it back over. And that's that one. Now all the seams are going that direction. So when you do the next row, which is laying like this, you want the seams to go that way. So first turn it to you because you're going to relax the seam. So it's like this, and you want it to go the opposite direction. This is the way it's going to lay on there. So since those are going towards the left, this has to go to the right. So take it, turn it over, and turn it around. And you can see this one's they're trying to kind of go a little bit to the left. So we're going to do it again. Then you're going to turn it over. Now keeping in mind right now it's backwards, so don't panic about it. We're just trying to set it. Turn it around. And now when you sew these, they're going to nestle just like that. So that means that the next row has to go the same as the first row. So the next one goes to the left. So first, this is the way it's going to be because we have our seam at the bottom. So we're going to fold it over. We're going to set our seam first. Remember, it goes like this. So we're going to come towards us and we're going to go that way with it. Now, if you don't like all that bulk, you can open your seam if you want. It's not going to hurt a thing if you open your seam. You're going to be quilting over the top of this. So it will grab your seams. So now all of these will nestle. So we're going to take them back over here and we're going to pin them. All right, now I've pinned from the corner, I pin it in the middle, I pin it at the seam here. Now I pin it at the seam that when my sewing machine goes across it, it may turn it over. So I don't put it on the seam in the back because it's already laying towards that direction. I do the top two first, then I'll do the third one. So let's go over here and sew this. If it needs a little help, just grab it on the back side, pull it a little bit till it gets started. If you need to use a leader ender, by all means use that. If you don't know what that is, I'm going to use it on the next one, so I'll show it to you. Now, I'm not going to iron it yet. I look at it, I make sure all my points are correct. So I look at it here. Yes, that point's correct. That point is correct. It's looking good. Now I'm going to do the other piece. I'm going to attach the other piece. I want you to see this part right here because this is where your piece of brown leaf is on here. So what you're looking at is, here's your seam. Here's your seam right here. And you're going to match it up to this seam here. Do you see that right there? I know it's hard because it's white. Here's my seam and there's my seam. So I take it and slowly slide it up. See? And then I'm going to put the pin on the left side because that side, which is the other side of this fabric, has got the part that will flip up when my sewing machine goes across it. And then I'm going to go down to the end and I'm going to pin it down here. And of course, you know, I'm going to put one in the middle also. So let's put one here at the tip. And I guess I need to show you another little trick here too. Okay, let's see here. Now, when you're putting your pins in, and I'm going to show you here, if you go straight in and you turn, you've taken the top fabric and you've brought it off your bottom fabric. You don't want to do that. Pull it down a little bit, go in at an angle, and then pin it, and it stays right up there with the other fabric. So remember, if you go straight in and you turn it, you're lifting up the fabric and you're going over the back of your, over the back fabric, and you don't want to do that. We're going to go down here, we're going to nestle this right here. And it's heavy on the left now. There we go, let's nestle that. I'm going to do the same thing. I've got to put my pin on the left-hand side so it doesn't jumble over. Okay, then I'm going to go here in the middle, put my pin, come all the way to the end, put my pin in the end. And the reason that you go from putting your pin in the end and then go back to the left is if your back fabric, in this case, was too much, then that's the feed dog will be feeding that through and you'd know it, because you're wanting to match up this side first. And there it's all pinned, ready to go. So let's sew that. Here's what a leader ender is. Mine, in this case, is a 2.5 inch square, 2 pieces of fabric, right sides together, and then I sew. And in this case, my little leader ender, I'm doing at a scant 1/4 inch. So I start it. When I get to the end, it's in fabric. So it's sort of like doing your chain stitching because you've already got a piece that's in there before it connects with this piece. Then there won't be an issue with your fabric down here. Your bulk, like I had bulk before and I had to help it and I pulled it through a little bit. And then I take all my leader enders and I'm piling them up because I'm going to make a little project out of them. And they're just scraps that I've taken and cut down to 2.5 inch squares. I'm going to pull this out and I'm going to come right up to that bulk with my machine. And then I'm going to stop when I get up here to the pin, pull it out. And then I'm going to grab this here on the back side and gently pull so that it goes over that bump. Now, if your machine, if you have a foot like this, and it has this little black thing on it down here, actually what that does is if you had a lot of fabric, let me see if I can get a little pile of fabric here. Hold on one second. I'm going to get some of these little leader enders and let me see, hopefully they're not too thick. let's say that your fabric was this thick. Okay? If your fabric is that thick and you're coming off onto something like this, then you take your button, you push it in, you put your foot down, and that holds your foot. Do you see that fabric underneath there? Let's see this right here? Where I've got this. Whoops, I popped it out. So, let me get it back in. Okay. So it's locked in, and it's got my foot on this stack. Once my foot comes off of it, that spring pops back out, and then this foot goes back down on my fabric. If you have one of these, your machine probably does the same thing. You've probably never used it. I've used it when I've had a bulk on one side, like that big bulk from the end down here where we did the leaf. If you'd have had a bigger bulk, that'd have been perfect to use. All you do is you continue sewing, watch. And as you come down, see how it popped right out? Now my foot went down to the normal height that it's supposed to. And it's made for that. That's what that's for. Just letting you know in case you've got one of those on your machine and you never knew it and you were having difficulty doing something thick. Let's pull that out a little bit to get up to the corner. Okay. Now we're going to look at all of our corners again. And they all look good. So we're going to now iron it. I'm going to take my leader ender off of there. Just clip this. First thing you do, you take it and you're going to set your seams again. And then I'm going to have it go upward. So I just slowly roll like that. I'm going to set my seam again. And I'm going to do the same thing. So I hold up on my fabric as I slowly move that direction, which will roll the fabric towards the top, like that. Okay, and then you can spray it with water if you want, if you don't feel like it's going down enough for you. But that's it for our first block. I'm going to put it up here on the design wall. That's a beautiful looking thing. All right, block one of the, I guess we can call it the autumn table topper. Or table runner, or whatever you're going to do with it. But there's our leaf. I hope this was pretty easy for all you newbies. And I hope you join me for the next block. I'm not going to tell you what it is yet. But thank you all of my new YouTube subscribers. Go ahead and push on that little button so that you can get notifications. If you haven't subscribed and you're watching, please subscribe. And I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.